My name is Karen Caton, and we're here at Stitchery, my studio where I teach sewing lessons. Stitchery opened in February 2017, so closing in on 9 years ago. Every year on the anniversary of when we open, I hold a craft supply swap, and it's community-wide. So people for about 3 weeks beforehand can come and bring whatever craft supplies they have that they don't know what to do with, or they know they're not going to use anymore, and to kind of sort through everything. And then the Saturday around when we opened, which was the 25th of February back then, I opened the doors to the community, and anybody can come and take whatever they want for free. That's been a really fun tradition that's been going since like the second or third year. I've been sewing my whole life, and I was sewing things to sell at artisan fairs and farmers markets, and it's really hard to make any money when you're selling handmade things. And so people started asking me, well, could you teach me how to make that? And it kind of went from there. And I have a degree in teaching. I used to teach high school biology, and I thought that would be a really interesting melding of the two. So the first places I taught really were at libraries. Libraries are always looking for programming, and the classes were doing really well. So then I approached one of the local private schools and did an after-school program with them. And the registrations were filling up pretty fast for both of them when those two programs were opening. So a friend of mine and I decided to give it a try, and we were able to rent the space. And it was a little less scary having a partner. So she taught all the knitting and I taught all the sewing, and still here. I actually started out after college, my degree's in biotechnology. So I actually worked in pharmaceutical research for a couple of years. And then we moved, and I went back to college at William & Mary and got a degree in education, and then taught high school biology. And then we moved and started a family and stayed home with the family for a while, and it seemed to be a really good flexible thing to do while being a stay-at-home mom. Originally, I thought I was going into medicine. My mom was a nurse, and I had some health issues early on that made me want to get into that field and make a difference and help. And so I actually applied, I think, for pre-med when I started college, and organic chemistry killed me. And I thought if I couldn't do organic chemistry, I had no business being a doctor. So I shifted, and biotech and the research industry was pretty big. I went to school in Philadelphia, and so there was a co-op program that got you some internships in the fields. And that seems like a much better fit. So I did that for a while. Started when I was 8, which is kind of why I start kids here at 7 or 8 years old. It's a really good age to start sewing. And I just kind of learned from my mom and figured things out and did a lot of trial and error for years. And got more into sewing clothes when I was in high school, and kind of went from there. Trying everything, not afraid to mess it up. I encourage everybody who is ever here, adult or child, to keep the very first thing you ever make, because you can always look back and see how much you've grown. I don't know that I ever really looked at it as a business. It was more finding a space where I could teach sewing. So early on, the libraries were great, the after school program was great, and I just felt like I needed a more permanent location to do that. And it's really hard to use a space in town and charge people for a class if it's not your own studio. So you can't just go into any facility and use it when it's not being used. So I don't know that I really set out to own the business. It was really more teaching the classes. So when someone's new, especially at the teen level or adult level, there are 4 projects that I like them to work through and build a foundation set of skills. So the first one is a lined tote bag, and the second one is a stuffed elephant, and I don't really care if you like elephants or not. I always recommend, if you don't like any of the foundation projects, you can always give it as a gift to somebody. But the elephant gets you to sew curves and sew kind of evenly. Then we have a zipper pouch, because everyone's terrified of sewing zippers. And then the last project is a pair of pajama shorts or pants, which is the very first garment I ever recommend, because no matter how much you mess it up, it's still going to fit. So in the back of the studio, we have samples of all sorts of different things, various projects that I work on. So the dress right here, I guess this is its grand debut, is an art project for an independent study student that I work with in fashion design. So she wanted to make a dress out of her math worksheets. So we're kind of excited to show this to her teacher from that class, but we still want to get it on an actual model. But the back of it even has grommets in the top to be able to get it on or off of an actual person, and a zipper in the skirts. And then one of the projects I really love is I volunteer with the Portsmouth High Costume Club. So students who want to work on costumes but don't want to be on the tech crew or be in the plays, they come here once a week, sometimes a little more than once a week, and we work on designing and sewing costumes for whatever play is in production. So we just finished Alice in Wonderland, and all the costumes are here in various forms. That play was a lot of fun. There are examples from other plays. We started out with Streetcar Named Desire a couple of years ago. We worked on Solve It Squads and Sister Act, and then we're gonna start thinking about working on the spring musical. This rack is a lot of past projects, current projects. These are quilts in progress from some middle school students, and more of the high school fashion design projects. This was a one-day camp for Veterans Day, which was a design challenge that was Project Runway. So everyone got the same fabric, and the challenge was they had to make a skirt that was somehow inspired by Wicked. And that was a group of 7 to 10-year-olds. And this was not one of theirs. They took all of theirs home, but that was a pretty fun day, fun project. Lots of fun with Alice in Wonderland. So the other thing I'm involved with this year is I am the Rhode Island State Director for the America's Tapestry Project. And that project is a narrative embroidery project that was commissioned of all 13 original colony states. So each state was asked to embroider a really big piece of linen with artwork that depicts the American Revolution and how it's important to that state and usually a lesser known event. The other component of that is the project is highlighting women and minorities involvement. So this is the artwork that was commissioned by a student at Bard College, and it depicts the Battle of Rhode Island, which happened right here in Portsmouth, near the high school actually. It also depicts the Liberty Affair, which was a precursor to the Boston Tea Party. It actually inspired the Boston Tea Party. And then the upper left-hand corner is a collection of kind of a fictitious island, but it's French military hospitals, which were really important to the efforts in Rhode Island. So this image has been transferred to a giant piece of linen, and we've been tasked with embroidering it in just a year, which is a really aggressive timeline. So all of the different state directors have been working together to find ways to make the process go a little bit faster. And one is fabric paint. So a lot of the background has been painted. The water around the island will still get painted. And then those areas can be stitched, or they can also just be left as paint and it will still be considered complete. The other thing that we've been doing is what we're calling a slip. And so a portion of the artwork has been transferred to another piece of linen and gets worked off the hoop, or off the panel in a hoop. And then we will reattach it to the panel as if it was still part of that panel. And that way we can divide and conquer and get things done a little bit more quickly and efficiently. So I chose to have all of the faces of the soldiers put on slips, really anybody with a face. And then there was an embroidery guild in Fargo, North Dakota, who really wanted to participate in the project, but they're not a colony state, so they didn't get a panel. So what we did is sent them the island that is the French military hospital. So So that is being stitched by a guild in North Dakota, and it will come back to us in the next month or so, and we'll reapply everything. The other thing we have, which is kind of cool, is actual rope that we're going to attach that has been tea-dyed to make it look like the rope in the image.
I'm working on pinning the paper pieces to the fabric. You're doing a purple one? Yeah. That's so cute. I'm making an Arctic fox, and I'm matching with my friend Murphy right here. We're doing different colors but the same shades. Well, this is just practice, but then we just embroider it straight on the fox's head. Cutting out the arms and legs.
Oh, I need you to come around. Just try it. Just try it. I mean, whatever area of sewing you want to go into, whether it's sewing with machines, if it's sewing by hand, just try it.